I had 10 seconds before I froze to death in a New York blizzard. 10 seconds to make a choice that would change everything. My name is Jocelyn Gray. 2 months ago, I was a senior investigative journalist with a Columbia degree and a Pulitzer nomination. I exposed the Albanian syndicate's money laundering empire and sent corrupt officials to prison. Now I had $3, a frozen granola bar, and hypothermia setting in. But what I didn't know was that someone was watching. The Albanians had destroyed everything. My career, gone after they pressured the Times ownership. My apartment, burned to the ground with me barely escaping. My life, reduced to sleeping in subway tunnels and parking garages, hiding from the men who wanted me dead. For 3 hours, I'd been walking through whiteout conditions that meteorologists called the storm of the century. The kind of storm that paralyzed New York, shut down subways, buried buses, and silenced even the emergency sirens. For most people, this was an inconvenience. For me, it was a death sentence. My knees locked up with every step, joints grinding like rusted machinery. The wind didn't just blow, it screamed down the avenues, carrying ice shards that scoured exposed skin raw. My lips felt like cracked porcelain. My toes had long passed pain, existing only as dead weights at the end of my feet. I stumbled, my shoulder hitting the brick wall of an alleyway. If I fell into that waist-high drift, I knew I wouldn't get back up. That's how hypothermia kills you. You sit down for just a second to rest. The cold stops hurting. And you drift into a sleep you never wake from. One wrong move, and everything would fall apart. That was when I saw it. A beast of a machine. A matte black armored SUV, idling at the mouth of the alley like a predator waiting in the shadows. The exhaust pipe puffed steady, rhythmic clouds of white smoke that dissipated into the blizzard. Against the swirling white chaos, it looked like a monolith. Solid, immovable, powerful. The engine was running. My instincts flared to life. A car like that, idling in a place like this during a storm that had shut down the entire city, didn't belong to someone normal. The windows were tinted so dark they looked like Vanta black, absorbing what little light came from the street lamps. I could see reinforced plating along the door seams. Military-grade armor. This wasn't just an expensive vehicle. This was a fortress on wheels. It screamed power. It screamed danger. His next decision would decide whether he lived or died. But then the wind shifted, hitting me with a fresh assault of sub-zero air that cut straight through my threadbare coat. A coat that had been stylish 2 months ago but was criminally inadequate for this frozen hell. My body convulsed. A violent shiver rattled my teeth so hard I thought they might crack. I looked at the car again. Heat waves shimmered around the grille like a desert mirage. That engine block was radiating blessed, life-saving warmth. I knew what kind of man drove a car like that. I knew it belonged to someone who operated outside normal rules. Someone dangerous. Someone from one of the 5 families that controlled New York's underworld. I knew what happened to people who stole from men like that. But freezing to death was a certainty. A bullet was just a probability. I chose the probability. If you've ever felt like survival meant taking the most dangerous risk, this story is for you. Hit that subscribe button right now and comment where you're watching from. We're building a family of people who understand what it means to fight when there's nothing left to lose. I forced my frozen legs to move, wading through the snow. My boots were soaked through, my toes useless weights. I approached the rear passenger side, keeping low, praying the driver was distracted. I reached into my coat pocket. My fingers were stiff claws, but they found the thin, flat strip of metal I'd been carrying since I lost the apartment. A lock shim. A tool I'd picked up from a source named Ricky the Rat when I was investigating chop shops in Queens. I'd never used it to steal, only to verify how easy it was for a story. Now it was my key to survival. I reached for the door handle. Please be unlocked. Please just be some rich idiot who doesn't lock up in a blizzard. Locked. Of course. But what happened next would change her life forever. I bit back a sob and pressed the shim between the window and weather stripping. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. If it fell in the snow, I was dead. I bit the inside of my cheek, using sharp pain to focus. Slide, hook, pull. Ricky's voice echoed in my memory. Slide. The metal went in. Hook. The mechanism caught. Pull. A dull thunk inside the door panel. I tried the handle again. It gave way. The door swung open and warmth hit me like a physical force. Glorious, thick, expensive warmth. It smelled of conditioned leather and cedar wood. It smelled like safety. I didn't look to see if anyone was in the front seat. I didn't care if they shot me. At least I'd be warm when I bled out. He couldn't explain why, but danger was closing in. I scrambled inside, dragging my soaked boots onto plush floor mats, and pulled the door shut. The silence was instant. The howling wind cut off as if a guillotine had dropped on the world. The interior was spacious, leather seats soft and supple, heated, radiating blessed warmth. I collapsed onto the floorboard behind the driver's seat, curling into the tightest ball my skeletal frame could manage. I shoved my hands into my armpits, trying to preserve what little core heat I had left. The engine's vibration hummed through the chassis, vibrating against my spine. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever felt. Just 5 minutes, I whispered to the darkness. Just warm up enough to feel my hands, then I'll leave. But the heat was a narcotic. As blood flowed back into my extremities, it brought stinging, burning agony that paradoxically made me feel heavy and drowsy. My brain, starved of oxygen and warmth for too long, began shutting down non-essential systems. The fear of being discovered, the terror of the Albanians finding me, the shame of breaking into a stranger's car. It all receded behind thick gray fog. What she didn't know was that someone was watching. I didn't hear the driver get in. I didn't feel the car move. The last thing I registered was the smell of cedarwood and gunmetal, and the rhythmic hum of the engine before blackness took me completely. Waking up was violent, not a slow drift into consciousness. A jarring snap, like a rubber band hitting bare skin. My eyes flew open, but my brain couldn't process the data. I wasn't moving. The engine hum was gone. The air was still warm, but different. It smelled of oil, polished concrete, and the sterile ozone scent of high-end security systems. I was still curled on the floor of the SUV. My muscles had seized in the cold, and now, locked in this fetal position, uncurling felt like breaking dry twigs. I groaned, a low, guttural sound scraping my parched throat. I pushed myself up, my hand sinking into the thick carpet. Where was I? There was one detail everyone missed. I blinked, clearing the grit from my eyes, and looked out the tinted window. I wasn't in an alley anymore. I was in a garage. But calling it a garage was an insult. This was a hangar. The floor was polished gray epoxy, gleaming under recessed lighting that cast no shadows. To my left, a sleek midnight blue Lamborghini. To my right, a vintage Shelby Cobra that looked showroom fresh. In the distance, a workbench that resembled a surgical prep station. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through my lingering lethargy. I had passed out. The car had moved. I had been inadvertently kidnapped. I scrambled for the door handle, my heart hammering against my ribs. I shoved the door open and practically fell onto the concrete floor, my legs tangled in my coat. I scrambled backward, crab-walking away from the vehicle, my breath coming in short, terrified gasps. I wouldn't run if I were you. That moment, everything in the room changed. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, bouncing off the hard surfaces. It was deep, controlled, utterly devoid of emotion. The voice of a man who didn't need to shout to be obeyed. The perimeter sensors are set to silent alarm. You make it 5 feet past those lifts, and the automated shutters seal the room. I froze, scanning frantically. He stepped out from behind a concrete pillar near the elevator bank. Declan Shaw. I stopped breathing. I didn't need to ask who he was. I had a file on him 3 inches thick back in my burned-out apartment. 34 years old. Head of the Shaw Organization, one of the 5 families that controlled New York's underworld. West Point graduate turned mafia boss. Ruthless, calculating, famously elusive. The feds called him the Ghost because he never left evidence. The families called him the Architect because he rebuilt the New York underworld from the ground up after the Albanian incursion 5 years ago. For the first time, he wasn't in control. He wore a charcoal 3-piece suit that fit his broad shoulders with architectural precision, the vest buttoned tight over a white dress shirt. No tie. The top button was undone, revealing a glimpse of tanned skin and the edge of a scar. He was tall, easily over 6'3", moving with predatory grace that made the vast garage feel suddenly claustrophobic. But it was his face that held me. He didn't have the scars or broken nose of a street brawler. He was terrifyingly handsome. Sharp cheekbones, a jawline that could cut glass. His hair was dark, swept back with disciplined order. His eyes, steel gray, almost silver in the garage lighting, were fixed on me with laser sight intensity. And in his right hand, held loosely but ready to snap up in a millisecond, was a matte black Glock 19. I didn't mean to. My voice cracked, a pathetic, raspy whisper. He raised the gun. Not at my head, but at my center mass. A professional. Stand up. I scrambled to my feet, swaying. My boots left ugly, wet prints on his pristine floor. I felt small, dirty, incredibly vulnerable in my oversized, grime-streaked coat. Hands where I can see them, he commanded. He walked closer, stopping 10 feet away. Close enough to not miss. Far enough that I couldn't lunge. You have 10 seconds to tell me who sent you. His voice was clinical, devoid of anger or curiosity. If you lie, I shoot you in the kneecap. If you stay silent, I shoot you in the other one. He tilted his head slightly, those cold gray eyes never leaving mine. Start. And then, the gun clicked. No one. I choked out, my voice barely a whisper. No one sent me. I was dying. I saw your car. I broke in to survive the storm. Declan Shaw didn't lower the gun. He circled me slowly, like a predator assessing wounded prey. His movements were economical, precise, every step calculated. He stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I could see the faint scar that ran along his jaw. A thin white line that spoke of violence survived. You bypassed a military-grade lock system, he said, his tone flat. In sub-zero temperatures, with hands that should have been too numb to function. That's not the work of a desperate homeless woman. That's professional. I was a journalist, I said, meeting his eyes despite the terror clawing at my chest. Investigative. I learned tricks from sources. His eyes narrowed. A journalist. Former, I corrected quickly. Very former. He holstered the gun, not in a shoulder rig, but in a holster at the small of his back, beneath the vest. The movement was smooth, practiced, but his hand remained within easy reach of the weapon. Name, he demanded. Jocelyn Gray. Something didn't add up, and the truth was darker than he expected. Something flickered in his expression. Recognition? Interest? It was gone before I could identify it. The Jocelyn Gray who wrote the Albanian money laundering exposé for the Times 2 years ago? His voice was colder now, if that was possible. The one who burned 3 of their front companies and got a city councilman indicted? My stomach dropped. He knew who I was. That made this either better or infinitely worse. Yes, I admitted. because lying seemed pointless now. Declan stepped back, creating distance between us. He pulled out his phone with one hand, never taking his eyes off me. "Finn," he said into the device. "Run a search. Jocelyn Gray, former Times journalist. I want everything: current status, known associates, last known address, and any flags in our systems." He ended the call and returned his attention to me. "You're going to stand there," he said, pointing to a spot near the Shelby Cobra. "You're not going to move. You're not going to speak unless I ask you a direct question. And you're going to explain to me why an investigative journalist who spent her career exposing organized crime just broke into a vehicle belonging to one of the 5 families." I moved to the spot he'd indicated, my legs barely holding me upright. My entire body was shaking, partly from hypothermia, partly from terror. He knew something that no one else in the building did. Declan leaned against his SUV, arms crossed, studying me with clinical detachment. He was looking at me the way a surgeon might examine a tumor, trying to determine if I was malignant or just an unfortunate growth that needed to be excised. "You're malnourished," he observed. "Dehydrated, suffering from exposure. Your coat is 2 sizes too big, which means you lost significant weight recently. Your boots are good quality but worn through at the soles, suggesting you've been walking extensively. And you smell like a subway platform." Each observation was delivered without emotion, without judgment. He was cataloging facts. "You're homeless," he concluded. "The great Jocelyn Gray, who won a Pulitzer nomination for her corruption exposés, is living on the streets." He tilted his head. "What happened? The Albanians?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "They destroyed you," he said. It wasn't a question. "Professionally, financially, probably threatened your life. You ran. You've been running ever since." 2 months, I whispered. "I've been on the streets for 2 months." His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, reading rapidly. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. A subtle tension that suggested the information confirmed something he'd suspected. But this wasn't even the most shocking part. "Finn confirms your identity," Declan said. "Former Times journalist, Pulitzer nominee. Terminated 18 months ago after the Albanians pressured the paper's ownership. Blacklisted from major publications. Evicted from your apartment 4 months ago. Multiple threats on your life. NYPD has an open file on harassment complaints you filed, but they went nowhere." He looked up from the phone. "The Albanians own half the precinct captains in this city. You never stood a chance." The casual way he delivered my personal catastrophe made something inside me crack. I had spent 2 months trying to survive, trying not to think about how completely they'd destroyed me. Hearing it summarized so clinically brought it all crashing back. "So here's what I see," Declan continued, pocketing his phone. "I see a woman who is dirty, small, and incredibly vulnerable. A woman who has nothing to lose. A woman desperate enough to break into my vehicle, which suggests either suicidal courage or complete ignorance of who I am." He pushed off the SUV and walked toward me. "Which is it, Miss Gray? Are you brave or stupid?" I lifted my chin, meeting his cold gray eyes. I knew whose car it was. That stopped him. "You recognize the vehicle?" "I recognize power when I see it. A car like that? In a neighborhood like this? During a storm that has the entire city locked down?" I managed a weak, bitter smile. "That's not a civilian vehicle. That belongs to someone who operates outside normal rules. I didn't know it was yours specifically, but I knew it was someone dangerous. And you broke in anyway." "Freezing to death is a certainty," I said. "A bullet is just a probability. I chose the better odds." For the first time, something that might have been respect flickered in his eyes. Or maybe it was just curiosity about this strange anomaly that had invaded his territory. This choice would define the rest of his life. "You're a problem," Declan said quietly. You've seen my private garage. You know where I park my vehicle. You can identify me. And you're connected to the Albanians. Even if that connection is hostile, that makes you a liability I can't afford. He reached for his gun. My breath caught. This was it. I'd survived hypothermia and starvation only to be executed in a billionaire's garage by the most dangerous man in New York. Wait, I said, the word coming out sharp and desperate. Wait, I have information. Information you need. Right now. Tonight. His hand paused on the weapon. I don't negotiate with thieves. The Albanians are planning something, I said, words tumbling out in a frantic rush. Tonight. Something big. I heard them talking 3 days ago before I had to run from my last shelter. They're moving against the 5 families. All of them. Simultaneously. Declan's expression didn't change, but his hand moved away from the gun. Keep talking. He had no idea the night would end in blood. There's a winter summit, I continued, my heart hammering. Tonight. All 5 heads meeting at a neutral location to discuss territory disputes. The Albanians know about it. They're planning to hit it. A decapitation strike, that's what they called it. Kill all the leadership in one move. His eyes narrowed. How do you know about the summit? That information is restricted to family leadership. Because they have someone on the inside, I said. Someone feeding them intelligence. Someone in your organization or one of the other families. I don't know who, but I know the strike is happening tonight. And I know you're on their target list. Declan stared at me for a long, silent moment. I could see him weighing my words, calculating probabilities, assessing whether I was telling the truth or spinning a desperate lie to save my life. If you're lying to me, he said softly, I won't just kill you. I'll make it slow. I'm not lying, I said, and meant it. They destroyed my career. They took everything from me. You think I wouldn't trade information to hurt them back? He pulled out his phone again, this time dialing a number. Owen, he said when someone answered. I need you in the garage. Now. We have a situation. He ended the call and looked at me. You just bought yourself 10 more minutes of life, Miss Gray. Let's see if your information is worth more than that. Owen arrived 3 minutes later, emerging from the elevator with the controlled efficiency of a man accustomed to crisis management. He was shorter than Declan, maybe 5'10", with silver threading through his dark hair and the kind of face that belonged in a boardroom rather than a crime family. He wore an immaculate navy suit and carried himself with the quiet authority of a man who had been Declan's right hand for years. His eyes swept the garage, taking in my disheveled appearance, Declan's tense posture, and the implications of both. Sir? This is Jocelyn Gray, Declan said. Former investigative journalist. She broke into my vehicle during the storm. She claims to have intelligence on an Albanian operation targeting tonight's summit. Owen's expression didn't change, but I saw his hand move subtly toward his jacket. Another weapon. These men lived in a world where guns were as natural as breathing. But there was one thing he didn't know about his closest ally. How credible? Owen asked, his attention fixed on me. That's what we're determining, Declan replied. He turned to me. Tell him what you told me. All of it. I repeated the information, the overheard conversation, the planned decapitation strike, the internal source feeding intelligence to the Albanians. Owen listened without interrupting, his face an unreadable mask. When I finished, he exchanged a glance with Declan. Some silent communication passed between them, years of partnership conveyed in a look. It's plausible, Owen said carefully. We've known the Albanians have been probing our operations. They're getting bolder, and the summit location was decided only 48 hours ago. If they know about it, they have a source close to the leadership. Could be disinformation, Declan countered. Planted specifically to disrupt the summit, make us paranoid, turn us against each other. Could be, Owen agreed. But if it's real and we ignore it, we lose 5 family heads in one night. The Albanians would own the city by morning. Someone in the room was lying. But who? Declan turned back to me. You said you heard them talking 3 days ago. Where? How? This was the dangerous part. Admitting how deep I'd fallen. How desperate I'd become. I was sleeping in a parking garage, I said, hating the shame that colored my voice. Underground structure in Hell's Kitchen. There's a maintenance tunnel that runs beneath the building. Good place to stay warm, out of sight. The Albanians use the garage for meat sometimes. I recognized them from my investigation 2 years ago. They didn't know I was there. They were speaking Albanian. But I learned enough during my research to understand fragments. Fragments, Declan repeated, his tone skeptical. You're basing this intelligence on fragments of overheard conversation in a language you barely speak? I understand enough, I shot back, anger flaring despite my fear. I spent 8 months embedded in their community for that exposé. I know their cadence, their terminology. Decapitation strike, godice e decapitimit. Winter summit, samiti e dimrit. I know what I heard. Owen stepped closer, studying me with the same clinical assessment Declan had used. Why should we trust you? You could be working for them. This could be a setup. If I was working for them, I'd be wearing better clothes and sleeping in a bed instead of breaking into cars to avoid freezing to death, I said bitterly. The Albanians destroyed my life. They got me fired, blacklisted, threatened. They burned down my apartment building with me in it. I barely got out. That's why I'm homeless. That's why I have nothing. You think I'd be helping them after that? Revenge is a powerful motivator, Declan observed. But it cuts both ways. You could be lying to us to hurt them, even if the information is false, using us as a weapon. Then verify it, I challenged. You have resources I don't. Check the Albanian movements, monitor their communications, see if there's unusual activity, but do it fast, because the summit is tonight, and if I'm right, you're all going to die if you walk into that building. In that moment, the entire balance of power flipped. Declan and Owen exchanged another look. Owen gave a slight nod. Owen, call the other families, Declan ordered. Discreet inquiries. Don't mention our source. Just feel them out. See if anyone else has heard whispers. And get our people monitoring Albanian communication channels. I want to know if there's any evidence supporting her claims. Sir, Owen acknowledged, already moving toward the elevator. When we were alone again, Declan circled back to me. This time, when he looked at me, there was something different in his expression. Not warmth. He didn't seem capable of warmth, but a cold, calculating interest. I was no longer just an anomaly. I was a potential asset. If you're telling the truth, he said quietly, you just saved the lives of every major crime family in New York. That's valuable. And if I'm lying? I asked. Then you die. Slowly. Painfully. And I'll enjoy every second of it. The threat was delivered with such casual certainty that it made my blood run cold. This wasn't a man who made empty promises. This was a man who had ended lives and slept soundly afterward. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for family. I'm not lying, I said again. I want them destroyed as much as you want to survive. More, maybe. They took everything from me. My career, my home, my life. I've been living like an animal for 2 months because of them. If I can help you hurt them, I'll do it. Not for you. For me. Something that might have been approval flickered in his eyes. Honest hatred. I can work with that. He pulled out his phone, made another call. Finn, I need a suite prepared. Guest wing, northeast corner. Medical supplies. Food. And get Maria up there. I'll need her to provide clothing. Women's size. He glanced at me, assessing. Size 2, Maybe 0. And make it warm. This is a hypothermia case. He ended the call and looked at me. Here's what's going to happen, Miss Gray. You're going to stay here, under guard. If your information proves accurate, we'll discuss terms for keeping you alive. If it's false, you'll be disposed of efficiently. Disposed of, I repeated hollowly. Did you think breaking into my car would end any other way? His tone was almost curious. You invaded my territory. You saw my private space. In my world, that's a death sentence. The only reason you're still breathing is because you might be useful. Useful, I echoed, tasting the word. It was bitter but familiar. I'd been useful to the times. Useful to my sources. Useful until I wasn't, and then I'd been discarded. Is that all I am? Another tool? In my world, being useful is the highest form of value, Declan said. People who serve no purpose die. People who provide value survive. Right now, your value is uncertain. Prove it, and you live. Fail, and you don't. It's very simple. He was right. In his world, a world of power and violence and ruthless efficiency, sentiment was weakness. Value was survival. And I had nothing to offer except information that might or might not be true. If people like the Albanians who destroy lives for profit make your blood boil like they do mine, hit that subscribe button and join us. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Let's stand together against everyone who's ever taken everything from someone who dared to expose the truth. I understand, I said quietly. I'm an asset, not a person. An asset. You're a potential asset, he corrected. Right now, you're just an anomaly I haven't decided what to do with. He tilted his head, studying me. But I'll give you this, Miss Gray. It takes courage to trade information with a man who could kill you without consequence. Stupid courage, maybe. But courage, nonetheless. The elevator dinged. Owen stepped out, phone pressed to his ear, his expression grim. Confirmed, he said to Declan. Castellano family reports unusual Albanian movement near their territories. Romano family lost contact with 2 street captains an hour ago, and our monitors picked up encrypted chatter on Albanian channels. We can't decode it yet, but the volume is 3 times normal. Declan's jaw tightened. She's telling the truth. Appears so, Owen agreed. He looked at me with new assessment, no longer a threat to be eliminated, but a source to be managed. The summit is scheduled for 8 p.m., 5 hours from now. If they're planning a strike, they'll move in the next 3. Cancel the summit, Declan ordered. Sir, the other families will ask questions. If we cancel without... I don't care what they ask. Tell them weather conditions make it unsafe. Tell them we have security concerns. Tell them whatever you need to tell them. But that summit does not happen tonight. Declan's voice was granite. If the Albanians want war, we'll give them war. But it'll be on our terms, not theirs. Owen nodded and returned to his phone, already making calls. From here on, the rules of the game changed. Declan turned back to me. Congratulations, Betso. Miss Gray, you just proved your value. That buys you a warm bed, hot food, and medical attention. Consider it payment for services rendered. And after that? I asked. After tonight? What happens to me? His smile was cold and sharp as a blade. That depends entirely on how useful you continue to be. The suite Declan installed me in was more luxurious than any place I'd ever lived. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Manhattan skyline, the blizzard creating a swirling white curtain that made the city look like a snow globe. The furniture was modern, expensive, all clean lines and muted colors. A gas fireplace burned in the corner, radiating heat that made my frozen bones ache. A woman named Maria had arrived with clothing, soft sweaters, thermal leggings, wool socks that felt like heaven against my ruined feet. She'd also brought a first aid kit and worked in efficient silence, treating my frostbitten toes and the cuts on my hands from the lock shim. "Mr. Shaw says you're to eat," Maria said, gesturing to a tray of food on the coffee table. Soup, bread, fruit. Simple but substantial. Slowly. Your stomach won't handle much at first. She left before I could thank her. I ate mechanically, forcing food down despite my stomach's protests. I'd been starving for so long that my body had forgotten how to process normal meals. But I needed strength, needed to think clearly, because I wasn't foolish enough to believe this was safety. This was a gilded cage, and Declan Shaw was deciding whether to keep the door locked or just eliminate the problem entirely. He didn't want revenge. He needed it. An hour later, Declan returned. He'd removed his suit jacket and vest, rolled up his shirt sleeves. He looked less like a corporate executive and more like what he truly was, a soldier who'd traded fatigues for Armani. "Feeling better?" he asked, though his tone suggested he didn't particularly care. "Yes, thank you." The words felt strange. Thanking a crime boss for not killing me and providing basic human necessities. He moved to the windows, looking out at the storm. "The summit is cancelled. The other families are suspicious but compliant. Owen is coordinating with our intelligence network to track Albanian movements. If they were planning a strike, we've disrupted their timeline." "Good," I said. He turned to face me. "Now we talk terms." "Terms?" "You have information the Albanians don't want shared. Documentation, presumably. Evidence from your original investigation. You mentioned fragments of overheard conversation, but I think you have more than that." His eyes were sharp, assessing. "What else do you have, Miss Gray?" Hidden in the files was a secret that could destroy them all. This was the moment. The negotiation that would determine whether I lived or died. I reached into the inner pocket of my old coat, still draped over a chair, damp and pathetic. My fingers found the small USB drive I'd been carrying for 2 months, wrapped in plastic. The last piece of my old life. "This," I said, holding it up. "Encrypted files from my original investigation. Documentation the Times never published because their lawyers got nervous. Financial records, communications, photographs, evidence of Albanian money laundering, bribery, criminal conspiracy. Enough to prosecute 24 of their mid-level operators and maybe 3 of their leadership." Declan's eyes fixed on the drive like a wolf spotting prey. "And you've kept this why? If you had evidence, why not turn it over to the feds?" "Because the feds are compromised," I said bitterly. "Half of them are on Albanian payrolls. I tried going official. They buried it. That's when the Albanians came after me. They knew I had the evidence. They wanted to make sure it never saw daylight." "So you've been carrying a death sentence in your pocket for 2 months. Better than letting them win," I shot back. "This is everything they don't want public. Every connection, every corrupt official, every dirty transaction. It's my insurance policy. The only thing keeping me alive is the possibility that this information goes public if I die. Dead man's switch." Declan held out his hand. "Give it to me." "No." His expression darkened. "No?" This single decision gave him the upper hand again. "This is leverage," I said, keeping my voice steady despite my hammering heart. "Right now, you need me alive because I have information you can use. The second I give you that drive, I'm useless. You'll dispose of me. So no, I don't give you the drive. We make a deal first." For a long, dangerous moment, he just stared at me. I thought I'd miscalculated, thought this was the end. But then something that might have been respect flickered in his eyes again. "You're smarter than I gave you credit for," he said quietly. "Most people in your position would have handed over everything immediately, hoping for mercy." "I stopped hoping for mercy 2 months ago," I said. "Now I'm just negotiating for survival." Declan moved to the bar, poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey. He didn't offer me any. What's your proposal? I give you the drive. You use it to hurt the Albanians. In exchange, you keep me alive. You keep me safe. You give me shelter, food, security, and I took a breath, knowing this next part was the gamble. You help me destroy them completely. Destroy them, he repeated, turning back to me. Ambitious. They took everything from me, I said, and couldn't keep the raw hatred out of my voice. My career, my life, they made me nothing. I want them gone. Not just hurt, not just set back, destroyed. Off the board permanently. That's the price of this drive. That's the deal. Her next words hit him harder than any bullet. Declan studied me for a long moment, swirling the whiskey in his glass. You understand what you're asking? You're asking me to go to war with the Albanian syndicate. That means bodies. It means casualties. It means destabilizing power structures throughout the city. All for your personal revenge. Not just my revenge, I countered. They tried to kill you tonight. They have sources in your organization feeding them intelligence. They're moving against the 5 families. This isn't just my war anymore. It's yours too. I'm offering you a weapon. Use it. He took a slow sip of whiskey, considering. If I agree to this deal, you understand what you become? You become my asset, my source. You work for me. You don't make independent moves. You don't keep secrets. You provide intelligence when I ask for it, and you stay exactly where I tell you to stay. You become mine. The possessiveness in that last word sent a shiver down my spine. But what choice did I have? I was homeless, hunted, with nothing but a USB drive and spite keeping me alive. I understand, I said. I become your asset. Not just my asset, Declan corrected, moving closer. My property. In my world, assets are resources I own and control. You'd be giving up any claim to independence, any illusion of freedom. You'd be mine to use as I see fit. Is that acceptable? It should have terrified me. Should have made me run. But I'd been running for 2 months and all it had gotten me was frostbite and starvation. Maybe it was time to stop running and start fighting back, even if that meant selling my independence to a man who saw me as a tool. Yes, I said. That's acceptable. This was only the beginning of a much bigger war. Declan finished his whiskey and set down the glass. Then we have a deal, Miss Gray. You give me the drive. I keep you alive. I keep you safe. And I help you destroy the Albanians. He extended his hand. Welcome to the Shaw organization. I took his hand. His grip was firm, controlled, the handshake of a man sealing a contract. But there was something else there too. A heat, a possession, a claim being staked. One more thing, he said, still holding my hand. You're not a guest. You're not a charity case. You're an asset. That means you follow my rules. You answer my questions. You go where I tell you. And if you lie to me, if you betray me, if you become more trouble than you're worth, you'll kill me, I finished. I understand. Good. He released my hand and pulled out his phone. Owen, come to the Northeast Suite. We're finalizing the arrangement. Owen arrived moments later, taking in the scene with characteristic efficiency. Declan explained the deal, the encrypted drive, the intelligence, the terms. Get our tech team to decrypt it, Declan ordered. I want everything on that drive analyzed and weaponized. Financial records go to our forensic accountants. Communications go to intelligence. Photographs get cross-referenced with known Albanian operatives. I want a complete picture of their operation by morning. Sir, Owen acknowledged, but he was looking at me with something that might have been concern. And Miss Gray? She stays here, under guard. 24-hour security. No one gets in or out without my authorization. Declan's voice was final. She's a strategic asset now. We protect her like we'd protect any valuable resource. Owen nodded and left to make the arrangements. But he had no idea a bigger force was controlling everything. When we were alone again, Declan turned back to me. Get some rest, Miss Gray. Tomorrow, we start planning how to dismantle the Albanian syndicate. Tonight, you're safe. That's more than you had this morning. He moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing. You're not a prisoner, but you're not free either. You're mine now. The sooner you accept that, the easier this arrangement will be. He left, the door closing with a soft click. I stood there in my borrowed clothes, in my gilded cage, holding an empty USB drive slot where my last piece of insurance had been. I'd gambled everything on a crime boss's word. I'd traded my freedom for protection. I'd become exactly what he'd called me, an asset. But I was alive. I was warm. I had food. And I had a chance, however small, to destroy the people who'd destroyed me. For now, that was enough. I woke to gray morning light filtering through the windows and the smell of coffee. For a disorienting moment, I forgot where I was. Then reality crashed back. The storm, the car, Declan Shaw, the deal I'd made. Maria was in the suite's small kitchen preparing breakfast. She'd brought more clothing, jeans that actually fit, a cashmere sweater in deep blue, practical boots that would keep my feet warm and dry. Mr. Shaw wants to see you in his office after you eat, Maria said, her tone neutral. She didn't judge, didn't ask questions. She was professional help in a world where asking questions got you killed. I ate slowly. Eggs, toast, fruit. My stomach was still adjusting to regular food after months of deprivation. When I finished, Maria led me through the penthouse. It was massive, taking up the entire top floor of what I now realized was a luxury residential tower in the financial district. The decor was minimalist, expensive, designed for function rather than comfort. Everything about it screamed power and control. What followed next was completely unexpected. Declan's office was at the end of a long hallway. Maria knocked once, then opened the door. He was at his desk, 3 monitors displaying what looked like financial data, surveillance feeds, and encrypted communications. Owen stood nearby, tablet in hand. Both men looked like they'd been awake all night. Miss Gray, Declan said, not looking up from his screens. Your intelligence was accurate. The Albanians did attempt to move against the summit location. We had surveillance in place. 6 vehicles, heavily armed. They were prepared for a massacre. My breath caught. Did they? We intercepted them, Owen said. Discreetly. No shots fired. They don't know we were waiting. As far as they're concerned, the summit was simply cancelled due to weather. And your encrypted drive proved quite valuable, Declan added, finally looking at me. Our tech team spent the night breaking it down. You had documentation on 17 shell companies, 42 financial transactions, and direct evidence linking Albanian operations to 6 city officials. He leaned back in his chair. This is actionable intelligence, Miss Gray. The kind that can actually damage their organization. Good, I said, and meant it. Declan gestured to a chair across from his desk. Sit. We need to discuss what happens next. I sat, aware of both men studying me with renewed interest. I was no longer just an anomaly or a potential asset. I was a source that had proven valuable. That changed the dynamic. You mentioned during your initial report that the Albanians have an internal source, Declan said. Someone feeding them intelligence about family operations. That concerns me. It should, I agreed. They knew about the summit location within hours of it being decided. That's not external surveillance. That's inside information. He realized he wasn't alone. Someone else had arrived. Owen's expression tightened. The summit location was decided in a meeting attended by 5 family heads and their immediate advisors. 10 people total. If there's a leak, it's coming from someone in that room. Or someone those 10 people confided in, I added. How many people know the details of your operation, Mr. Shaw? How many have access to sensitive information? My inner circle is small, Declan said. Owen, Finn, Maria, and 3 other trusted captains. That's it. Everyone else operates on compartmentalized information. They don't see the big picture. Then the leak is either in your inner circle or in one of the other families, I said. And based on what I overheard, they have real-time intelligence, not just historical information. They're getting updates, regular communications. Declan and Owen exchanged a glance. Some silent communication passed between them. Walk me through exactly what you heard, Declan ordered. Everything. Every word you can remember. Even if you're not sure of the translation. I closed my eyes, pulling up the memory. 3 days ago. The parking garage maintenance tunnel. Cold concrete against my back. Albanian voices filtering down through a ventilation shaft. They were celebrating something, I began. One of them, I think it was their tactical coordinator, man named Ardian. He said the Barimi had confirmed the meeting. Source. The source had confirmed the meeting. Then another voice said the location was being finalized and they'd have confirmation within 24 hours. Did they name the source? Owen asked sharply. No direct name, but they used a phrase. Shoku ine Brenda. Our friend inside. And then... I paused, remembering the next part. One of them laughed and said something about how easy it was to buy loyalty when people felt undervalued. Nenvlerejwar. Undervalued. Like they'd recruited someone who felt overlooked or disrespected. Declan's jaw tightened. Someone in our organization who feels undervalued. That's not much to go on. He trusted her, and that was his biggest mistake. There's more, I said. They mentioned a name, just once. I wasn't sure if it was the source or someone else involved, but... I took a breath. They said, Owen will handle the security arrangements. Direct quote. In English, not Albanian. Like they were repeating something they'd been told. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Owen's face went carefully blank. They mentioned my name. Yes, I said quietly. I wasn't sure if it meant you were the source or if the source had given them information about you, but they knew you'd be involved in security arrangements. They knew your name, your position. Declan stood slowly, his movements controlled but radiating danger. You're telling me the Albanians specifically mentioned Owen, my consigliere, the man who has access to every piece of sensitive information in my organization. I'm telling you what I heard, I said, meeting his eyes. I don't know what it means. But they knew his name. They knew his role. And they were confident enough about their intelligence to plan a massacre based on it. Owen's expression remained neutral, but I saw his hand move subtly toward his jacket, where his gun was holstered. And suddenly, he realized he was being played. Sir, Owen said, his voice calm. If I were compromised, would I have reported the Albanian movements last night? Would I have helped you cancel the summit and save the families? Unless you were playing a longer game, Declan replied, his tone cold. Unless reporting the movements was necessary to maintain your cover. Unless you're waiting for a better opportunity. The accusation hung in the air like a blade. I've been your consigliere for 12 years, Owen said, and for the first time emotion colored his voice. I've taken bullets for you. I've buried bodies for you. I've built this organization alongside you. You think I'd betray that for Albanian money? I think people betray for lots of reasons, Declan said quietly. Money, fear, resentment. You said it yourself. They recruit people who feel undervalued. Have you felt undervalued? Owen? No. Are you certain? Because this organization has changed significantly in the last 2 years. More corporate, more strategic, less reliant on traditional methods. Some of the old guard haven't been happy with that transition. Declan's eyes were ice. Have you been happy, Owen? Or have you felt sidelined by the new approach? I've been loyal, Owen said, but there was an edge to his voice now, a crack in the careful control. I sat frozen, watching this confrontation unfold. I'd dropped a bomb into Declan's inner circle, and now I was witnessing the explosion. I looked between the two men, realizing I'd just lit a fuse I couldn't extinguish. Declan's hand rested on the desk, fingers drumming a slow, deliberate rhythm. Owen stood perfectly still, a statue carved from ice and suspicion. He didn't realize this moment would come back to haunt him. There's a simple way to resolve this, I said, my voice cutting through the tension. Test him. Give Owen false information. Something specific. Something the Albanians would act on immediately if they received it. See if it leaks. Declan's eyes shifted to me. A canary trap. Exactly. Tell Owen, and only Owen, that you're moving a high-value shipment tonight. Give him a specific time and location. Then watch the location. If Albanian operatives show up, you have your answer. Owen's jaw clenched. That would take time we don't have. The Albanians are already mobilized. They know their summit strike failed. They'll be looking for alternative targets. Which is why we need to know if they're getting real-time intelligence, Declan said. His voice had gone quiet, dangerous. Owen, where were you 3 nights ago, between 10 p.m. and midnight? Coordinating security rotations for our street operations, Owen replied immediately. You can check the logs. I made 17 calls to various captains, confirming positions and reviewing threat assessments. Calls that could have been made from anywhere, Declan observed, including a location where you might have been meeting with Albanian operatives. Sir, this is... Owen's control finally cracked. This is insane. You're going to trust a homeless journalist over 12 years of loyalty? She walks in here with convenient intelligence, drops my name into suspicion, and suddenly I'm a traitor? What if she's the plant? What if this is all part of their operation? He had a point. A valid point that made my stomach twist with uncertainty. Declan looked at me, those gray eyes assessing, calculating. Miss Gray, do you have any evidence beyond what you overheard? Any documentation? Photographs? Recordings? No, I admitted. Just what I heard. But I know what I heard. They mentioned Owen by name. They knew his role. And they were confident about their intelligence source. Convenient, Owen said bitterly. No evidence. Just accusations from a woman desperate to prove her value. Tell me, Miss Gray, what better way to secure your position than to eliminate Mr. Shaw's most trusted advisor? The accusation hit like a physical blow. Was that what I was doing? Was I so desperate to survive that I'd destroy an innocent man? What she said next shattered his trust instantly. Declan moved to the window, staring out at the snow-covered city. When he spoke, his voice was cold calculation. Owen, you'll remain here, under guard. Not in custody, not yet. But you don't leave this building. You don't make calls. You don't access secure communications. Consider it protective isolation until we verify Miss Gray's intelligence. Declan, that's an order. Declan turned, and his face was the mask of a commander, not a friend. If you're innocent, you'll be cleared and compensated for the insult. If you're guilty, you'll wish I'd killed you quickly. Owen's face went pale, but he nodded stiffly. Understood, sir. Declan pressed a button on his desk. 2 guards entered immediately, both armed. Escort Owen to the south wing, suite 14, post security. No one enters or leaves without my direct authorization. Owen walked out between the guards, his spine rigid with fury or fear. The door closed behind them. Declan and I were alone. You just accused my closest advisor of treason, Declan said quietly, based on fragments of overheard conversation. If you're wrong, I've destroyed a 12-year partnership and created division in my organization at the worst possible time. And if I'm right, I just saved your life again, I countered. He studied me for a long moment. Why do I trust you? You're a journalist. You've built a career exposing people like me. You broke into my car. You have every reason to lie, to manipulate, to serve your own interests. Why do I believe a word you say? Because I have nothing to gain from lying, I said simply. If I wanted to manipulate you, I'd tell you comfortable truths. I'd make myself indispensable without causing chaos. Instead, I'm giving you intelligence that makes your world more complicated. That's not manipulation. That's honesty. He moved closer, and I forced myself not to retreat. He stopped inches away, close enough that I could smell cedar and gunmetal, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. For once, he wasn't thinking like a boss, but like a man about to lose everything. You're either the most valuable asset I've ever acquired, he said softly, or the most dangerous enemy I've ever invited into my home. I haven't decided which yet. Neither have I admitted. But right now, we both want the same thing. The Albanians destroyed, your organization protected. That makes us allies, even if we don't trust each other. Something that might have been respect flickered in his expression. Fair enough. Come with me. We're going to verify your intelligence. And if Owen is compromised, we're going to set a trap that will burn the Albanians to the ground. Declan led me to a room I hadn't seen before. A war room, essentially. Multiple screens lined the walls, showing surveillance feeds, encrypted communications, and what looked like a digital map of Manhattan marked with colored pins. 3 people worked at computer stations, all wearing the efficient, focused expressions of intelligence analysts. Finn, Declan called to a lean man with red hair and sharp features. I need Albanian communication intercepts from the last 72 hours. Any mentions of family operations, summit meetings, or internal sources. Finn's fingers flew across his keyboard. Pulling them now, sir. We've got 16 flagged intercepts matching those parameters. Declan pulled up a chair, gesturing for me to sit beside him. The screens filled with text, Albanian phrases, partial translations, timestamps. Show me the one from 3 nights ago, I said. Between 10 and midnight. That's when I heard the conversation. Finn filtered the results. 3 intercepts appeared. I read them carefully, my rudimentary Albanian straining to make sense of the fragments. Then I saw it. What she found in the envelope froze her in place. There, I said, pointing. That phrase. Burimi eshte I sigurt. The source is secure, and below it, Informazioni erdi nga ke shiltari. Information came from the advisor. Declan's jaw tightened. Advisor. Ke shiltari. That's Owen's position. Could be coincidence, Finn said, though his tone suggested he didn't believe it. Advisor is a common term. Run a linguistic analysis, Declan ordered. Cross-reference every intercept mentioning advisor with known family operations. See if there's a pattern. While Finn worked, Declan pulled me aside. If Owen is compromised, he knows we're suspicious now. He'll either try to run or try to eliminate the threat. That threat is you. Then we use that, I said. The plan formed even as I spoke. Tell him you're taking me to a secondary location. Tell him it's for my protection, that you're moving me somewhere the Albanians can't find me. Give him a specific time and route. And see if the Albanians intercept us, Declan finished. His smile was cold. You think like an operative, Miss Gray. I think like someone who's been hunted for 2 months, I corrected. You learn to predict your enemies when survival depends on it. Finn's screen beeped. Sir, I've got something. 12 intercepts over the last 6 months referencing the advisor. Every single one correlates with a family operation that was compromised, disrupted, or anticipated by Albanian forces. The room went silent. Owen, Declan said quietly. The name sounded like a death sentence. We don't know for certain, I said, even as my gut told me otherwise. We need confirmation. Hard evidence. Then we get it. Declan pulled out his phone, his expression carved from stone. Owen, change of plans. I'm moving Miss Gray to a safe house upstate. The Albanians know she gave us intelligence. They'll be looking for her. I need you to arrange security for the transfer. 3 vehicles. Armed escort. We leave at 1700 hours. I could hear Owen's voice through the phone, tinny and distant. Sir, is that wise? Moving during active Albanian operations? That's why I need heavy security, Declan replied. Route will be West Side Highway to Sawmill River Parkway, then county roads to the location. I'll send you coordinates. Have your people in position by 1630. He ended the call and looked at me. Now we wait. If he's clean, we get secure transport and no Albanian interference. If he's compromised... The Albanians will be waiting on that route, I finished. And we'll have our proof. We won't actually be on that route, Declan said. Owen thinks we're leaving at 5 p.m. via West Side Highway. We're actually leaving at 4 p.m. via FDR Drive. Completely different direction. And Owen? Owen will be in the second vehicle of the convoy he arranges. If the Albanians attack that convoy, he'll be in the middle of it. Poetic justice. I should have felt disturbed by the cold calculation in his voice. Instead, I felt relief. This was a man who could actually protect me, who could actually destroy the Albanians. All it cost was my independence and my conscience. Small prices for survival. But this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. The hours crawled by with agonizing slowness. Declan had me stay in the war room, watching as his people tracked Albanian movements across the city. 3 separate surveillance teams reported increased activity near West Side Highway. Vehicles positioning. Personnel moving into place. They're setting up an ambush, Finn reported. Right along the route Owen was given. Declan's expression was stone. How many vehicles? At least 5. Heavily armed. This isn't harassment, sir. This is an assassination squad. I felt sick. If we'd actually taken that route, we'd be dead. All of us. Declan, his guards, me. Dead because Owen had sold us out. Time to go, Declan said, standing. He handed me a heavy winter coat, tactical quality, lined with armor plating. Put this on. Stay close to me. Don't speak unless I tell you to. If shooting starts, you drop to the floor and stay down. Understood? I nodded, my throat too tight for words. We took a private elevator down to the parking garage. Not the beautiful showroom where I'd first seen him, but a utilitarian concrete space filled with anonymous vehicles. Declan guided me to a black sedan. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would attract attention. A vehicle that could blend into city traffic. 2 guards joined us, both armed. Both scanning the environment with professional paranoia. Where's Owen? One of them asked. Other vehicle, Declan said shortly. We're taking a different route. Stay alert. We pulled out of the garage into the dying afternoon light. The storm had passed, leaving the city buried under 2 feet of snow. The streets were being cleared, but slowly. Traffic was light. Most people were still staying home. Declan drove personally, his hands steady on the wheel. I sat in the passenger seat, hyper-aware of every car we passed, every shadow in every alley. They'll realize we're not on the planned route within 20 minutes, Declan said. Once they do, they'll try to relocate, redirect. We need to be out of the city before that happens. And Owen? Owen is currently sitting in an armored SUV with 4 of my most loyal guards, waiting for a convoy that's never coming. When the Albanians hit that convoy looking for me, he'll have a choice. Fight alongside my people or reveal himself by helping the Albanians. What if he fights? I asked. What if he maintains his cover? Then we'll have conclusive proof when Albanian communications reference the failed advisor intelligence. They'll blame him for the bad information. Either way, we'll know. Are you Team Jocelyn and Declan? Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. This story is just getting started. We made it to FDR Drive before everything went wrong. A black SUV pulled out behind us. Too close, too aggressive. Then another appeared ahead, boxing us in. "Contact," one of the guards said sharply. Declan's expression didn't change. "Hold on." Everyone thought the deal went smoothly, but they were wrong. He accelerated hard, the sedan's engine roaring. We shot forward, aiming for the gap between the lead SUV and a snowbank. The guard vehicles tried to close the gap, but Declan was faster. We slipped through with inches to spare. Gunfire shattered the rear window. Safety glass exploded inward, pelting us with fragments. I screamed, ducking down. One of the guards in the back seat returned fire, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. "How did they know?" I shouted over the chaos. "How did they know we'd be here?" Declan's jaw was clenched, his eyes fixed on the road. "Because Owen isn't the only traitor. Someone else in my organization is feeding them information. Someone with access to our movements. But Owen was isolated. And someone must have given him a way to communicate anyway." Declan yanked the wheel hard, sending us sliding onto a side street. "We're compromised. Protocol Alpha, we run." The sedan flew through the streets, Declan driving with the precision of someone who'd been trained for exactly this scenario. Behind us, 3 Albanian vehicles gave chase, their headlights cutting through the gathering dusk like predators' eyes. "Sir, they're hurting us," one of the guards reported. "They're not trying to hit us. They're trying to force us onto a specific route." Declan swore viciously. "They have a kill box set up. They know where we're going before we do." "Then don't go where they expect," I said, my voice somehow steady despite the terror. "Give me your phone. I know this city. I've spent 2 months learning every alley, every shortcut, every place civilians aren't supposed to go." He should have walked away, but then he saw it. He handed me the phone without hesitation. I pulled up the map, my fingers shaking but functional. "There, that service tunnel entrance. Maintenance crews use it to access the subway infrastructure. It's wide enough for a vehicle. Opens up near the East River. That tunnel will be locked, gated. Then we break through. Better than driving into their trap." Declan made a split-second decision, yanking the wheel hard. We skidded sideways, fishtailing on the icy road, then straightened out, heading toward the service entrance I'd indicated. The Albanian vehicles followed, closing the distance. More gunfire. Our rear guard was still shooting back, making every bullet count. The tunnel entrance appeared, a nondescript gate set into a concrete wall. It was locked with a chain. "Brace!" Declan commanded. He floored the accelerator. We hit the gate at 40 miles per hour. The chain snapped with a metallic shriek, and we plunged into darkness. The sedan's headlights carved a narrow corridor through the tunnel. Concrete walls pressing close on both sides, water dripping from ancient pipes overhead. Behind us, I heard the screech of tires. The Albanians were following. "This tunnel connects to the old utility network," I said, navigating by memory in the phone's map. 300 yards ahead, there's a fork. Left goes to a dead end at a pumping station. Right eventually exits near the ferry terminal. "Which one do we take?" "Right, but slowly. There are support columns that aren't marked. Drive too fast and we'll crash." Declan reduced speed, trusting my guidance. The Albanian vehicles behind us weren't so cautious. I heard a tremendous crash, then screaming metal. One of them had hit a column. 2 vehicles left. We emerged from the tunnel near the ferry terminal, exactly as I'd predicted. The sudden return to open air and fading daylight was disorienting. Declan accelerated again, weaving through the empty terminal's parking lot. They're still coming, the guard reported. I can't outrun them forever, Declan said. This vehicle isn't armored. One good shot and we're done. His right-hand man had been hiding something from him. An idea crystallized, desperate and dangerous. The Manhattan Bridge. It's been closed for repairs since the storm. No traffic, no civilians. If we can get there, we can use the construction barriers as cover, Declan finished, and possibly trap them on the bridge. He turned hard, heading for the bridge access. Behind us, the Albanian vehicles adjusted their pursuit. They were coordinated, professional. These weren't street thugs. These were trained operatives. We roared onto the Manhattan Bridge, the empty span stretching ahead like a frozen ribbon. Construction barriers lined both sides, concrete and steel jersey walls set up for the repair work. Declan wove between them, using them to break the Albanians' line of sight. More gunfire. Closer now. They were gaining. Then I saw it. A construction crane sitting idle on the bridge deck, its boom extending across one lane. An idea formed. Insane, and probably suicidal. Stop the car, I said. What? Stop the car. Give me a gun. I can slow them down. Declan's eyes met mine for one fierce second. Then he nodded. He slammed the brakes, and we skidded to a stop behind the crane. He handed me a compact pistol from inside his jacket. You know how to use that? I learned a lot of things for my investigations, I said, checking the chamber. Loaded. Safety off. Including defensive shooting. I rolled out of the sedan, using the crane's massive base for cover. The Albanian vehicles were seconds away, their headlights growing larger. I aimed carefully, remembering my instructor's voice. Breathe. Sight picture. Squeeze. Don't pull. I fired. The shot went wide. I was out of practice and terrified. But the Albanians swerved, startled. I fired again. This time I hit the lead vehicle's windshield. It shattered, and the SUV jerked violently. The driver had been hit. The vehicle careened into a jersey barrier, flipping violently. The second vehicle couldn't stop in time. It slammed into the wreckage, creating a twisted pile of metal that blocked the entire lane. Silence descended, broken only by the hiss of ruptured radiators and the creak of settling metal. I stood there, shaking, the gun smoking in my hand. I'd just shot someone. Maybe killed them. The reality of it crashed over me like a wave. Declan appeared beside me, taking the gun gently. We need to move. Their backup will be here soon. I killed them, I whispered. You saved us, he corrected. He cupped my face in his hand, forcing me to meet his eyes. You saved my life, Jocelyn. Again. Do you understand what that means? I nodded numbly. Come on, we need to disappear. Really disappear. I know a place. We drove north for 3 hours, leaving the city behind. Declan made calls on a secure phone, his voice clipped and commanding. Lockdown protocols, security sweeps, finding the second traitor. But mostly, we drove in silence through the winter darkness. Eventually, we left the highway, taking county roads that became dirt tracks that became barely visible paths through heavy forest. The sedan struggled in the deep snow, but Declan pushed it forward with grim determination. Where are we? I finally asked. Catskills. Shaw family has owned property up here for generations. Most of it was sold off decades ago, but we kept one parcel. 500 acres of mountains and forest. There's an old hunting cabin. Nobody knows about it except immediate family. Is it safe? Safer than anywhere else right now. His voice was tight with exhaustion. The Albanians have more reach than I thought. They have multiple sources. This isn't just Owen. This is a systemic penetration of my organization. The cabin appeared without warning, a dark shape materializing from the forest. It was more substantial than I'd expected, a 2-story log structure with a wide porch and a stone chimney. Snow had drifted against the walls, making it look abandoned and forgotten. Declan killed the engine. "Stay in the car while I clear it." He disappeared into the darkness, gun drawn. I sat in the cold silence, watching my breath fog in the car's interior. The heating had died when the engine stopped. Without it, the temperature was already dropping. Declan returned 5 minutes later. "Clear. Generators still functional. We have heat and water." Under the floorboard, he discovered a truth he wasn't ready for. Inside, the cabin was Spartan but solid. Heavy furniture that had survived decades of neglect. A massive stone fireplace that Declan quickly filled with split wood from a covered stack on the porch. Within minutes, flames were crackling, pushing back the cold. I collapsed onto a worn sofa, my body finally registering the terror and exertion of the last few hours. My hands were shaking. I'd killed people tonight. Shot them. Watched them crash and burn. "Drink this." Declan handed me a glass of whiskey. "It'll help with the shock." I drank obediently. The alcohol burned, but it did help steady my nerves. Declan shed his coat and suit jacket, rolling up his sleeves. For the first time, I saw the damage. His left forearm was bleeding, a deep gash from broken glass. His face had multiple small cuts. His hands were scraped raw. "You're hurt," I said. "Superficial." But he was moving stiffly, favoring his left side. "Let me see." I stood, crossing to him. When he tried to wave me off, I caught his wrist. "You saved my life multiple times tonight. The least I can do is patch you up. Where's the first aid kit?" He gestured to a cabinet. I found supplies, basic but adequate. Medical tape, antiseptic, bandages. I guided him to a chair by the fire. "This is going to sting," I warned before cleaning the arm wound. He didn't flinch, didn't make a sound, just watched me work with those intense gray eyes. "You shot well tonight," he said quietly. "Where did you really learn?" Investigative journalism in dangerous territory. I had a bodyguard for 6 months during the Albanian investigation. Former Marine. He taught me defensive shooting. Said any journalist covering organized crime needed to know how to protect themselves. I wrapped the bandage carefully. "I never thought I'd actually use it." "You did more than use it. You saved us. That crash bought us the time to escape. Without it, we'd be dead." I moved to his face, cleaning the smaller cuts. We were close now. Closer than we'd ever been. I could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of betrayal and violence that never quite left someone who lived in his world. "Owen," I said softly, "what will you do about him?" "He's being held by my people. They'll interrogate him. Properly. He'll tell us everything. Who else is compromised? How deep the Albanian penetration goes. How long he's been working against me." Declan's voice was cold again. "Then he'll die. Slowly. Painfully. As a message. You trusted him. Which makes his betrayal worse." He caught my wrist as I dabbed antiseptic on a cut near his temple. "Trust is the only currency that matters in my world. Break it, and there's no coming back." "And me?" I asked. "Do you trust me?" His grip tightened slightly. "You've proven yourself 3 times. The intelligence about the summit. The warning about Owen. The shot that saved our lives tonight. Trust has to be earned. You're earning it. But not there yet. Not yet, but closer than you were this morning." I finished treating his injuries and started to step back, but he held my wrist, keeping me close. "You're not just an asset anymore," he said quietly. "You're operational. You've shed blood for this organization. For me. That changes things." "Changes them how?" His thumb brushed across my pulse point. "In my world, people who fight beside me, who save my life, who prove their worth in blood, they become family. Not the kind you're born into, the kind you choose, the kind that matters more because it's earned. My breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying you're mine now, Jocelyn. Not as property, as something more important. You're under my protection, my obligation, my... He paused, seeming to weigh the word. My responsibility, and I take my responsibilities very seriously. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. Inside, the fire crackled. And between us, something had shifted, something dangerous and inevitable. We should rest, Declan said finally, releasing my wrist. Tomorrow we figure out how to dismantle the Albanian syndicate and purge the traitors from my organization. Tonight, we survive. Together. I woke to the sound of engines. Multiple vehicles, coming up the access road. My eyes flew open, my heart immediately hammering. The cabin was dark except for the dying embers of the fire. Declan! I hissed. He was already awake, already moving. He'd been sleeping in a chair by the window, gun in hand. I heard them. 4 vehicles, maybe 20 men. How did they find us? His jaw tightened. The sedan. It must have a tracker I didn't know about. Owen's work, probably. Installed weeks ago in case he ever needed to locate me. Can we run? Not fast enough. Not in these conditions. He moved to the window, assessing. They're surrounding the cabin. Professional tactics. We're trapped. Something didn't add up, and the truth was darker than he expected. My mind raced. The propane tank. For the generator. Is it full? Should be. Why? An insane plan formed. The fireplace connects to the chimney. If we could pump propane into the cabin, let it fill the space, then ignite it. We'd create an explosion. Understanding lit his eyes. Blow out the walls. Create chaos. Give us a chance to escape in the confusion. It's suicidal. Less suicidal than fighting 20 armed men. He was already moving, heading for the back door. You rig the propane. I'll prepare our exit route. We have maybe 3 minutes before they breach. I ran to the generator room, my hands shaking. The propane tank was commercial-sized, connected by thick hoses. I disconnected the main feed to the generator and redirected it, running the hose through the back window into the cabin's main room. The gas hissed out. Invisible, odorless death. Declan returned, carrying 2 packs. Winter gear, supplies. We'll go out through the basement window into the ravine behind the cabin. The explosion should cover our escape. Should? It's the best plan we have. He pulled me close suddenly, his hand cupping the back of my head. If this doesn't work, if I don't make it, don't, I interrupted. Don't say it. We both make it or neither of us does. Something fierce flashed in his eyes. You're not allowed to die, Jocelyn. I'm keeping you. You understand? You're mine now. I don't lose what's mine. Before I could respond, the front door exploded inward. Albanian voices shouted commands. Footsteps pounded across the porch. Now, Declan commanded. He threw a lit torch into the cabin's main room, where propane had been filling the space for the last 2 minutes. Then he grabbed my hand and yanked me toward the basement stairs. The explosion was massive. The entire cabin seemed to lift off its foundation, timbers splintering, windows blowing outward in cascades of glass and flame. The concussive force threw us down the stairs, tumbling in a mess of limbs. My ears rang. My vision swam. Declan pulled me up, shouting something I couldn't hear. We scrambled through the basement, through the narrow window he'd opened, out into the snow. The cold hit like a physical blow, but we kept moving, sliding down the ravine behind the cabin. Behind us, the cabin was an inferno. Screams. Gunfire. The Albanians who'd been breaching when the explosion hit were dead or dying. Those outside were in chaos, trying to regroup. We ran through the forest, stumbling through waist-deep snow. My lungs burned. My legs felt like lead. But Declan's hand was iron around mine, pulling me forward, refusing to let me fall. His next decision would decide whether he lived or died. A gunshot cracked through the trees. Bark exploded from a trunk near my head. They were following. "Keep going," Declan commanded. "There's a road 300 yards ahead. Emergency supplies cached nearby. We can—" Another shot. This one hit him. I felt him jerk, heard his sharp intake of breath. But he didn't stop running. "You're hit!" I gasped. "Vest caught it. Move!" We burst through the tree line onto a snow-covered forest road. Declan staggered to a fallen log, kicked aside snow, and pulled up a sealed case. Inside, weapons, ammunition, emergency beacon. He activated the beacon. "My people will get the signal. They'll come. We just have to survive long enough." Albanian voices echoed through the trees, getting closer. Declan checked his gun, then handed me another. "We make our stand here. Stay behind that rock formation. Fire only when you have a clear shot. Make every bullet count." "Together," I said. "Whatever happens." "Together," he agreed. The Albanians emerged from the forest, 6 of them, spread out, advancing tactically. Declan and I opened fire simultaneously. 2 went down immediately. The others scattered, using trees for cover. The firefight was brief, but intense. Gunfire echoing through the frozen wilderness. The smell of cordite and blood. Declan moved with lethal precision, each shot calculated and effective. I was sloppier, but fear made me aggressive. I wasn't going to die here. Not after everything. The last Albanian fell. Clutching his leg, his weapons scattered in the snow. Declan walked over, gun trained on the man's head. "Who sent you?" Declan demanded in perfect Albanian. The man spat blood. "Enver himself. He wants you dead, Shaw. All the families. We won't stop." "You just did," Declan said, and pulled the trigger. The silence afterward was deafening. We stood in a forest clearing surrounded by bodies, covered in snow and blood and soot from the explosion. We'd survived. Against impossible odds, we'd survived. Declan turned to me, and something in his expression made my breath catch. It wasn't the cold calculation I'd seen before. It was something raw, something human. "You fought for me," he said quietly. "Fought beside me. Killed for me. You've earned more than my protection, Jocelyn. You've earned my loyalty, my trust, my—" He paused, searching for the word. "My claim." "Claim?" He stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup my face. "In my world, when someone saves your life repeatedly, when they stand with you against overwhelming odds, when they prove their worth beyond any doubt, they become yours. Not as property, as something more precious, as chosen family, as—" He struggled with the admission. "As mine in every way that matters." "Declan, I'm keeping you now," he said, the words a promise and a warning and a vow all at once. "Not as an asset, not as a source, as mine. Under my protection, in my world, by my side. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Understood?" The intensity in his eyes should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something warm unfurl in my chest. Safety. Belonging. The end of running. "Understood," I whispered. He kissed me then. Fierce and possessive and claiming. When he pulled back, his eyes were molten steel. "Let's go home," he said. "We have a war to win, and I don't lose wars." The extraction team arrived within 30 minutes. 3 SUVs, 12 armed guards, and Owen's replacement, a woman named Sarah with calculating eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. They wrapped us in thermal blankets, loaded us into the lead vehicle, and drove back toward the city with military efficiency. Declan spent the drive on encrypted calls, his voice cold and commanding. Lock down all operations. Full security sweep of every lieutenant and captain. Anyone who can't account for their movements in the last 72 hours gets isolated. I want Owen's communications records pulled and analyzed. Find every contact, every meeting, every transaction. He paused, listening. Then, yes, Owen talks. Whatever it takes. I want names. I want the complete network. And then I want them all dead. I sat beside him, wrapped in the thermal blanket, watching the man who'd become my protector orchestrate a purge with ruthless precision. This was his world, violence and betrayal and survival measured in blood. And somehow, impossibly, I'd become part of it. When he ended the calls, he turned to me. "You're thinking you made a deal with the devil." "I'm thinking I made a deal with the only person who could keep me alive," I corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" He studied me with those penetrating gray eyes. "You're under my protection now. That means you live in my world. You follow my rules. You accept my methods. Most people can't do that. They want the protection without accepting the cost." "I've already killed for you," I said quietly. "I've already shed blood. I know what world I'm in. I'm not naive enough to think I can have safety without consequences." Something shifted in his expression. Approval mixed with something that might have been respect or possession or both. "You're different from what I expected." "What did you expect?" "A victim. Someone broken by what the Albanians did to you. Someone who'd take my protection and hide behind it." He reached over, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Instead, I got a fighter. Someone who could stand in a forest clearing surrounded by bodies and not flinch. Someone who could kill to survive and accept the weight of it." I flinched, I admitted. I just didn't let it stop me. That's the definition of courage. Not the absence of fear, but acting despite it. His hand lingered against my cheek. "You'll make an excellent addition to my organization, Jocelyn. Not as an asset. As something more." "What's more than an asset?" "A partner." The word hung between us, weighted with implications. Someone I can trust at my back. Someone who can operate independently but in alignment with my goals. Someone who has their own agency but chooses to use it in service of our shared objectives. "Destroying the Albanians," I said. "Among other things. They tried to kill me. They tried to kill you. They corrupted my organization and attempted to decapitate the 5 families. That's an act of war. And I don't do half measures in war." The SUV pulled into an underground garage, different from the one where this had all started, more heavily secured. Sarah opened the door, gesturing for us to exit. "Your penthouse has been compromised, sir," she reported. "We've moved operations to the secondary location. Full security sweep in progress. Owen's interrogation is underway. He's already given us 12 names, 3 captains, 6 lieutenants, 2 civilian contractors. All Albanian plants going back 18 months. Declan's jaw tightened. 18 months. They've been inside my organization for a year and a half. We're rolling them up now. Teams are moving simultaneously to prevent any from alerting the others. By midnight, your organization will be clean." "And Owen?" "He's requesting to speak with you. Says he has information about their leadership structure. Something about a meeting with Enver himself." Declan nodded. "Prepare an interrogation room. I'll handle it personally." He glanced at me. "You'll observe. You've earned the right to see how we deal with traitors." I should have objected. Should have said I didn't want to witness whatever Declan was about to do to Owen. But the truth was, I did want to see. Owen had tried to get us killed. Had betrayed Declan for money or fear or resentment. Had sold out to the same people who'd destroyed my life. "I'll observe," I agreed. The interrogation room was exactly what I expected. Concrete walls, steel table, bright lights. Owen sat in a metal chair, his hands cuffed, his face bruised and swollen. He'd already been worked over by professionals. When Declan entered, Owen's expression crumbled. Declan, Don't. Declan's voice was ice. Don't apologize. Don't beg. Don't waste my time with excuses. Just tell me why. After 12 years, after everything we built together, why did you betray me? Owen's laugh was bitter. You want to know why? Because you changed, Declan. You stopped being one of us. You went corporate. You brought in consultants and accountants and efficiency experts. You turned our family business into a fucking MBA thesis. And you stopped listening to the people who'd been with you from the beginning. So you sold out to the Albanians because you felt ignored? Declan's tone was utterly flat. That's your justification? They offered me what you stopped offering. Respect, recognition, a place at the table where decisions were made, not just orders to be followed. Owen's voice turned venomous. You turned me into middle management, Declan. After everything I sacrificed for you, every body I buried, every risk I took. You made me irrelevant. So you decided to kill me. I decided to survive. The Albanians are the future. They're hungry. They're aggressive. They're going to own this city whether you like it or not. I chose the winning side. Declan studied Owen for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was almost sad. You chose wrong. He pulled out his phone, playing a recording. Owen's voice came through clearly, talking to someone in Albanian, discussing the summit strike, providing intelligence, arranging the ambush on the Manhattan Bridge. We've been monitoring your communications for the last 6 hours, Declan said. Full spectrum surveillance. We have everything, every contact, every conversation, every transaction. You didn't just betray me, Owen. You gave us the entire Albanian intelligence network, their communication protocols, their safe houses, their leadership structure. Owen's face went white. No, I was careful. I used encrypted. Encryption is only as good as the people using it. And you were sloppy, desperate. You made mistakes. Declan leaned forward. You're going to tell me everything about the Albanian leadership, where Enver operates, how he moves, who protects him, every detail you know. And then, he paused. Then we'll discuss how you die. Declan, please. You don't get to plead. You don't get mercy. You get one choice. Cooperate completely and die quickly, or refuse and die slowly. That's it. That's all you have left. I watched from behind the one-way glass as Owen broke. As he gave up everything he knew, meeting locations, security protocols, the Albanian hierarchy, it took 3 hours. By the end, he was weeping, broken utterly. Declan emerged from the interrogation room, his face an unreadable mask. Get it all to Sarah. She'll coordinate the strikes. I want them hit simultaneously at dawn. All of them. Every location Owen gave us. Complete decapitation of their leadership structure. Sir, a guard acknowledged, disappearing to relay orders. Declan turned to me. Come with me. He led me to a different room, this one comfortable, with soft furniture and warm lighting. A private office, maybe. He poured 2 whiskeys, handed me one. You saw what I am, he said quietly. What I do. How I handle betrayal. Most people would run after seeing that. I'm not most people, I replied. And he tried to kill us. Both of us. Whatever you do to him, he earned it. Declan's smile was sharp. You really are perfect for this world, Jocelyn. Ruthless when necessary. Pragmatic. Capable of violence without losing yourself to it. He moved closer. I'm keeping you. Not just as a partner in destroying the Albanians, but permanently. In my organization. By my side. As mine. What does that mean exactly? Being yours? It means you live here, in my world, under my protection. You have resources, security, freedom to operate within parameters, but you don't leave. You don't betray. You don't work against me. You're mine in every way that matters, professionally, personally, permanently. That sounds like a very luxurious prison, I observed. It's a gilded cage, he agreed. But it's the safest cage in New York. And given that the Albanians still want you dead, that safety is worth more than freedom. He wasn't wrong. Outside his protection, I was a target. Inside it, I was untouchable. What happens after the Albanians are destroyed? I asked. After we've won this war? Then we find other wars to fight, other enemies to eliminate, other territory to claim. He traced the line of my jaw with one finger. This is my life, Jocelyn. Constant violence, constant strategy, constant vigilance. If you're mine, it becomes your life too. Can you live with that? I thought about the last 2 months, freezing in alleys, starving in subway tunnels, running and hiding and barely surviving. Then I thought about tonight, fighting beside Declan, shooting enemies, surviving impossible odds, feeling alive despite the terror. Yes, I said, I can live with that. His kiss was possession and promise. When he pulled back, his eyes were molten. Then it settled. You're mine now. Permanently. Irrevocably. He scooped me up effortlessly, cradling me against his chest. And I take care of what's mine. I wrapped my arms around his neck, letting him carry me from the office toward whatever came next. Outside, dawn was breaking over New York. Albanian safe houses were about to be hit. A war was being won. And I, former journalist, former victim, former nothing, had found my place in a world of violence and power. Declan's world. As his. Forever. If this story touched your heart, please share in the comments where you're watching from around the world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that help sometimes comes from the most unexpected places. Your support keeps these stories alive.